All right, tax man, are you ready to do another episode about our lovely tax structure here in Portland for properties? Yes.
The correct answer is yes.
Good! So before we've talked about how our lovely property tax system works, and we talked a little bit about Measure 50 and how that has translated to, in essence, what seems like higher property taxes for some neighborhoods versus others. The next thing that we get asked all the time is, well, what happens if there's a new house that was built after 1995, or if I remodel my house and put in a brand new kitchen, what happens to my property taxes?
We do get that question a lot. Those who put together the legislation anticipated and actually came up with a pretty clever solution.
Propeller heads!
Obviously, none of these properties existed in their present form in 1995. So exceptions are made to how they are assessed now for subdivided lots, new construction, major improvements, and that's something like $10,000 a year or $25,000 in 5 years. That needs to be updated, but regardless, major improvements.
ADUs?
Things like that,
Yeah.
okay? And the basic concept is that if you take, in an effort to apply the Measure 50 limits to these new improvements, you take a ratio. It is called the changed property ratio.
Sounds like maximum assessed value and change property rate. What?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what it is. And how the assessor does this to come up with the changed property ratio for any given area is they'll take an average of the maximum assessed values over an area divided by the real market values in an area. So you basically get a ratio that bears some resemblance to what other properties are taxed at as a percentage of the real market value. Apply that to the value of the improvements, and that becomes your assessed value for the improvements. So for instance, in Portland, Multnomah County, for the 2019-2020 tax year, change property ratio is 49%. What that means then is that is based on an evaluation by the county assessor saying that overall, Multnomah County, assessed values are 49% of market values. Okay?
Okay.
However they measure it.
All right.
49% then is, let's say you do a $100,000 improvement. Okay?
I'm with you. Yeah.
Your maximum assessed value will go up $49,000.
So if my house is worth $350 and I'm planning to put in $100,000 in, I'm actually, my market value is probably $600,000. My maximum assessed value is currently $350, and we covered this in previous episodes. I'm going to put in $100,000 into a new ADU, right? I'm going to build an ADU.
Right.
What happens to my property taxes?
Your maximum assessed value, under this example, would go up 49% of the improvement value, would add $49,000 to your $350. Your assessed value would then become $399. And your taxes are based on $399, not on $650 plus $100.
Got it. Okay. So we talked last time a little bit about the differences in the neighborhood, and you started to talk about the difference of the ratio between maximum assessed value and real market value and coming up with ratios. Does that just happen by a city level, county level, or does it happen down into like North Portland versus West Portland?
So the changed property ratio is applied countywide, Multnomah County, with a few exceptions around Fairview and Wood Village and that sort of thing. So most of Multnomah County is subject to the same 49%.
Got it.
Interestingly, in our last session, we talked about how some areas have a market value that is 3, 4, 5 times their assessed value.
Right.
And other areas have a market value that is twice their assessed value.
Or less, right? If you're in a condo in the Pearl, right, it's less than twice, right?
And so that becomes what we were talking about, some of the disparity in taxes for similarly valued homes.
Uh-huh.
You know, that homes of the same value can pay vastly different taxes.
So is there an implication on areas of town from a tax perspective that are the best to improve?
Well, you would probably think that the areas that have a higher value relative to their assessed values, pretty good deal, because your improvements are going to probably be worth more, and yet your assessed value is only going to be raised 49%.
So again, it's those same neighborhoods that we talked about last time.
Same neighborhoods.
Northeast Portland, North Portland,
Close in Southeast.
close in Southeast are the best neighborhoods for that perspective.
So think in the context of an ADU,
Right.
which we'll talk about at another time.
Uh-huh.
But if you're going to add an ADU, and let's say it costs $180,000,
The city of Portland wants us to do that, right, as homeowners, right?
yeah, they'll forgive all sorts of system development charges and things like that. And yet you're significantly improve the value of the property, and yet your assessed value for tax purposes is only going to go up.
A portion of what you're putting in. So that's actually pretty good that it's aligned, that those neighborhoods where it makes the most sense from a property tax perspective are also probably the neighborhoods that make the most sense from
Long-term investment.
long-term investment, and
Yeah.
where people would expect to and want to rent an ADU.
Yeah, there's one other point I want to make, and this has to do with improvements. It's the question we get around remodeling. What if your tax bill that you just got shows that you have improvement value way more than you think your remodeling project added? Okay?
Ruh-roh.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible, because it's not the cost of the remodel, it's the value of the remodel.
Right.
If you did a $100,000 remodel, but you think it only added $75,000 or $60,000 to your value, what should you do?
Appeal.
Okay, you have until December 31st to file your appeal. There's information about how to do that on our website, but just keep in mind, you have until December 31st to appeal, or it's locked in and there is no way to address it in the future.
Okay. Or else the other thing you can do is in advance, contact us, because often cases the contractors that we recommend are not more expensive than the value that they're adding to the property, are they?
Well, it would be nice if that was always the case, and we know it's not.
Right. All right.
So
So that's another episode of Phil and Bob Raise the Roof. Again, if you want to find out more about property taxes or any of the subjects we talked about, please visit our blog. You also, our contact information is right here. We'd love to chat with you in more detail at any time. Thanks.
see you next time.